Hey everybody. Today we're going to talk about evaluating expressions. And so what I want you to think of when you hear that is a couple of things. Number one, it doesn't say solve. It says evaluate, and it says expressions, not equations. So we are not going to see equal signs. Well, we'll see a couple, but not in the original problem. We're not going to see equal signs because it's an expression and we're just evaluating it because those variables are variable. They can mean different things. So right out of the gate, I wanted you to understand that we're not going to be talking about an equation solving type of thing today. So here's your example. So what is p cubed, or to the third power, when p equals 2? It could have been anything. They could have put anything in there, but today we're going to put in 2 for p. So all I want you to do is write down the original problem, and then we are going to substitute in 2 for p. And every time we substitute, if you will put it in parentheses, you will thank me later, because there will be a time when that parentheses is going to save you from missing a negative or misinterpreting the problem. So remember, 2 to the third power means 2 times 2 times 2. So when you do that, 2 times 2 times 2, you know your answer is 8. We evaluated the expression when p equals 2. All right, here we have fractions. I know how you feel about fractions. I have heard it over and over and over again. So we're going to evaluate 4 over m plus 1 when m equals 1. Same thing. We're going to write down the original problem. I'm big on that, guys. You will make fewer mistakes if you do that. And now instead of m, we're going to put in a 1. And I always plug in parentheses. It's a habit and it has served me well. So once we do that, 4 over 1 is just 4 plus 1, and that is 5. So when m is 1 in this expression, it solves to or equates to 5. All right, have another fraction, but we have some more variables in there. So solve x, y, z over y squared when x equals 3, y equals -1, and z equals 2. Same thing, x, y, z. And you know, because those letters are right next to each other, it's understood multiplication on the numerator of that fraction. So it's whatever x is times whatever y is times whatever z is, all divided by y squared, or y to the second power. And remember, those fractions are just big division problems. I write it like that to prove or to show you that that represents division. So don't let those fractions scare you. All right, let's plug those numbers in. So we have x is 3, y is -1, and z is 2. All over, plug in for y is -1. So all I did was take out the letter and put the value that they've given us in parentheses. That's all I did. All right, let's look at the numerator. 3 times -1 is -3. -3 times 2 is -6 over. What do you get on the denominator? Think about it for a second and come up with your answer. Now remember, if you watch the video on PEMDAS and order of operations, we said that whenever there's an exponent, it only applies to what it touches. Well, this exponent is touching the parentheses, so everything within that parentheses is going to be multiplied by itself 2 times. So it really means -1 times -1. -1 times -1 is 1. And so a negative divided by a positive is a negative. Take those piece by piece. Otherwise, it's really easy to gloss over that and miss it. And I don't want that for you. All right. Another one looks pretty easy, right? G squared plus f when f equals -8 and g equals -4. So come up here, write the problem again. Plug in parentheses, what is g? -4. And what is f? -8. PEMDAS tells you need to get rid of those parentheses. And in this case, with the exponent, we're doing 2 for 1. -4 squared. Now, what is applied to that squaring or that exponent? Anything it touches. So that's why putting them in parentheses is so important, because there's a huge difference between this and this. May not look like it, but what is this first one? What does the exponent touch? I'm giving you a side example here to show you how important it is. It only touches the 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. Then we have the negative. That's -16. What is -4 in parentheses squared? What touches the what does the exponent touch? Just the parentheses. So it's -4 times -4 equals +16. Big difference. Big difference. Okay, we're erasing that because it's not exactly part of that problem. I just wanted to point that out. So we have 16, +16, plus -8. Plus negative is the same as minus. 16 minus 8 is 8. You got this. If you write it out step by step, you're definitely going to get this. Okay, you may find a problem presented this way. Basically, they're saying, what does 4p squared plus 1 equal when p equals 1/3? You go and solve that, and you put your answer right in this table right here. And you do the same thing with -9, 5, and 0.6. Okay, so we're going to come off to the side here, write the original problem. And first we're going to sub in or put in 1/3 for p. See how I do that in parentheses every time? It works. Okay, so what is 1/3 squared? 1/3 times 1/3. Remember, when you're multiplying fractions, you just multiply across the numerator. 1 times 1 is 1. Multiply across the denominators. 3 times 3 is 9. All right. If it helps to write it out like that on the side, do it, guys. Whatever's going to help you get this answer right is what we want to do. So we have 1/9 times 4 plus 1. What is 4 times 1/9? Put it over 1 if you need to. So you can separate those numerators and denominators. You get 4/9 plus 1. You can write that as 1 and 4/9. If you wanted to convert 1 into ninths, it's just 9/9. Anything over itself equals 1. And 4/9 equals 13/9. So either answer would be correct there. Unless they told you in the problem. Sometimes they'll do that and they'll say, write your answer as an improper fraction or write your answer as a decimal. Then you would just do the division, 13 divided by 9 and whatever your decimal is. So read your directions, because many times they tell you in the directions how they want the answer, but if you haven't read it, so if I had written that as 13/9 and they wanted a decimal, I would get it wrong, even though it's right, but that's not what they asked for. I think you hear what I'm saying. All right, next we're gonna plug in -9 for p and solve. We're going to do our exponent first. -9 times -9 is 81 times 4 plus 1. So here, once you get there, if you're allowed to use a calculator, which it depends on your teacher and if you're in a testing situation, what the test is. But if you're allowed to use a calculator, don't stress over this. And if you can't figure it out, you're not sure, or you want to check yourself, go ahead and do that. And then you get your answer. If you were in a testing situation and you weren't sure if you were right, what could you do? You could go back in there and plug -9 in and see if you still get 325. Okay, go back into the original, plug it in again. Next, we're going to plug in 5. I'm just going to erase here. So that parentheses is still there. We're going to plug 5 in for p. What is 5 squared? It's 25. What's 25 times 4? Think quarters. 100 plus 1 is 101. And if you need to take a little more time doing that, that's fine. Take as much time as you need to get these right. But if you notice, I am writing everything out. I am a visual learner. That's how I process everything. And a lot of people are. If you're auditory, listen to the video again. Okay, if you need to get your hands on it, take your own notes while you're doing it. Sometimes making flashcards helps. Basically, figure out what type of learner you are and just work that way in whatever class you're in. All right, 0.6, we're going to stick it in this parentheses there. Get your calculator out if you need to, if you want to, and then you would get 0.36 times 4 plus 1. And when you multiply that out, you get 1.44. Just be careful putting it into the calculator. Make sure you get those decimals in the right place and you don't hit the enter button twice or whatever your calculator is. Just be real careful with it. It's not a bad idea if you're testing to go back and check those answers on your calculator, because you don't want to do all of this work and then get it wrong because you missed a key or you hit it twice. All right, guys, that is evaluating expressions, and you can do this. See you next time.